Hello and welcome to the second lecture on nationalism in India. In the last lecture, we covered the basic ideas that instill the feeling of nationalism into the hearts of people throughout India. Let's now unfold the main events under which the national movement evolved. The first up is the World War One. Now, India did not fight the First World War directly, but it was still a British colony at that time, and the British were one of the prime forces in the war. This had a severe political and economic impact on India. To fight the war, the British needed both supplies and money. So they did what they had been doing in the past. They took harsh and unjust measures such as increase in taxes and a defense expenditure, as well as forced army recruitment from rural parts of India. They didn't care if the Indian soldiers survived or were even fit for war. For them, the Indians have always been a resource that they can use by any means necessary. These cruel measures caused widespread anger throughout the country. Moreover, to worsen the things, the country suffered from food scarcity due to crop failure and food diversion. The British had diverted the already scarce food to the war affected areas. Due to these inhumane decisions, in 1918, what started as a famine turned into a deadly epidemic which claimed over 13 million lives throughout the country. The dawn of the Gandhian era. In 1915, after successfully leading the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, Mahatma Gandhi returned to India to help his own people achieve the same anti-colonial awareness. He introduced his philosophy of Satyagraha. Satya means truth and Agraha means insistence. The term Satyagraha translates to insistence on truth. He emphasized on the power of truth as well as his dharma of non-violence, which he believed was the path of active resistance and could move the oppressor without physical force by persuading him to see the truth. Besides, he also believed that such a doctrine could unite all the Indians. Adopting this philosophy, he led three major movements across the country. The first was carried out in 1916 in the Champaran district of Bihar, where he fought for the cause of indigo planters who were protesting against the unjust British laws. The Britishers, who had previously been buying indigo from the Indian planters, began to import synthetic indigo from China. But now the land of the Indian planters was left infertile and could not produce any other crop. The other two movements were held in Gujarat. One of them was carried out in 1917 in the Kheda district, where Gandhiji, along with Dr. Rajendra Prasad and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, rose against the financial exploitation of the peasants. The other was carried out in Ahmedabad in 1918, during which Gandhiji went on a hunger strike to fight against the oppression of cotton mill workers. This new form of protest proved to be very effective. The next turning event was the Rowlatt Act. The Britishers could sense the outraging nationalism among the Indians, and to suppress this rising tide, they brought in the Rowlatt Act in the year 1919 and gave British police enormous powers such as search without warrant, arrest without trial for 2 years, and arbitrary detention. Since the act was purposely introduced to crush the Indian uprising, the nationalists called it as Black Act and protested strongly against it. Gandhiji called for Rowlatt Satyagraha on 6th April 1919, which was joined by people all over the country, as strikes and mass processions were held pan-India. The next up is the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. The British were so baffled by the uprising nationalism that on 10th April 1919, they fired on a peaceful procession in Amritsar. This act of cruelty and cowardice again provoked the people, who turned to streets and attacked government buildings such as banks and post offices. As a result, martial law was imposed, and General Dyer, an infamous man responsible for an infamous crime, took control of the city. On 13th April 1919, a large crowd gathered at Jallianwala Bagh. While some came to protest against the cruel regime, most had come from outside the city to attend the annual Baisakhi fair, unaware of the martial law that had been imposed. Dyer blocked the exits and opened fire on the crowd, killing hundreds of men, women, and innocent children. To understand the sheerness of the incident, the well at the Jallianwala Bagh had filled with corpses. In fact, the Bollywood film Sardar Udham Singh, released in 2021, has depicted this horrendous crime in a surreal way. The news of this incident spread like wildfire, and once again strikes were held and more violent clashes broke out. And since violence defeated the very purpose of Satyagraha, the British responded with brutal suppression and humiliated the Satyagrahis. Eventually, Gandhiji had to call off the movement, but the movement was in every sense a widespread movement. Let's recall what we have covered in this video. The political and economic impact of the World War I, rise of Gandhi and his ideology of Satyagraha, the Rowlatt Act, also known as the Black Act, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, and the consequences of which led to the Rowlatt Satyagraha being called off. In the next video, we will move on to the next phase of national movement, where we will see how the growing nationalism evolved into India's freedom struggle. Till then, you can watch our previous video if you still haven't, or you can get detailed notes on this chapter, as well as practice NCERT and previous year questions along with their solutions. You also get mind maps and many more at the EduRev mobile app and website to learn better and score more.